All right, Olev, you want to go ahead and share your screen?
So I'm minimizing the screen that I'm seeing you on.
You
Is
just
that correct?
on the Zoom screen, just hit the green up arrow that says share.
Okay, and I'm going full screen here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
All right, cool. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and thank you, Olev, for bringing this presentation to Tri-State this evening. We very much appreciate it. Just to briefly introduce, Olev is retired from dual careers as a city planner and church organist and choir director. Olev lives in Bethlehem,
Ah,
Pennsylvania. His interests include photography and railroad history, and his writings and photographs have been widely published, including Delaware-Lackawanna, his sixth book, which was published in 2024. And Olev is also a current director of ARHS, which owns the sister AB units to our F3663. So with that, Olev has put together a presentation for us on the Susquehanna before the years of Delaware Otsego.
okay, thank you, Rich. I've I've drawn a pretty tight definition here of the original Susquehanna, in that I've cut it off at the point where uh, Delaware Otsego owned the Susquehanna. There was a year, 1981, and into 1982, when they operated it but did not own it. The Susquehanna, in many ways, I can claim sort of as my home road. From 1951 through 1957, my family lived in Paterson, New Jersey, and we would often go to New York City for social and other reasons. Although I do have a remembrance of once uh, using the ferry at Chambers Street to reach New York City from the Erie, our conveyance of choice was the Susquehanna, which we could easily reach by walking to the station at the end of the Patterson City branch.
Hey, Olev, just so you know, we don't see your presentation.
Okay, let's go. Let me go back. Let me get out of this for a second.
Okay.
And do you see anything currently?
No, you're gonna have to go back into Zoom and click the share button again.
Okay. And I'm going to end the show. And okay, so I'm back here. I am in share, and I'm going to the original Susquehanna.
Perfect. Just
Okay.
full screen it and you'll be good.
Okay. Full screen. No, that didn't do it.
Click from beginning on the upper left there.
Got it.
Perfect. You're all
Okay.
set.
The After 1957, there was one further contact with the Susquehanna, and that is by the 1970s, my parents had purchased a house in Wyckoff, New Jersey, and it so happened that their lot backed up onto the Susquehanna main. Although I must say that of the times that I ever visited, I never did see a moving train at that time. So let's take a look here. We have Miss Susie Q, rather shapely woman. And one thing I take notice on this particular slide, oops, boy, was that the boxcar was built in 1926. Uh, so it was obviously rebuilt by that time. Uh, Susquehanna had uh, biannual uh, employee timetables because they had passenger service, and so they would have each when the time would change, daylight savings, they would switch employee timetables to reflect the current schedules. The artwork that you see to the right was actually a little cube that was part of the Hudson Bergen uh, artwork when that line was built by New Jersey Transit with the 1% for the arts. So we're going to start off with the passenger service here. You can see this is from 1963, so it's relatively late in the game, and I do have remembrances of going to Susquehanna Transfer and getting on the bus that would take us through the Lincoln Tunnel to Port Authority. This was the passenger station on the main line. You can see just a short one-car train with the ubiquitous RS1. But this was a slide from the city branch. You can see that the RDCs that we would have been riding at the time and the gravel parking lot that was provided at the station. That station, by the way, was only about 2 blocks from the Erie's passenger station. Some years ago, I forget who did it, but they created this poster of an RDC on the city branch, and I purchased a said poster and had it framed. I thought it was a rather nice job. Here's a two-car train heading outbound over Overpeck Creek between Little Ferry and Ridgefield Park. And just outside of Hackensack, we had Maywood, New Jersey. You can see that February, people are bundled up with long coats, men with hats on, obviously heading for work. The somebody in the cab is looking back to see how the boarding is going. Um, and so this went on for years and years on the Susquehanna. In 1967, I visited Edgewater and I saw that two of their coaches were, at this point, had their numbers painted out. I believe that passenger service was over at this point. Well, lots of people are fascinated by locomotives, so let's take a look at the Susquehanna's locomotive fleet. Again, in Edgewater, this is where the Sealand terminal was at the time, and Susquehanna kept this center cab switcher there, number 200. You can see NY, S, and W is lettered on the cab in a yellow scheme that was not repeated on any other locomotive owned by the Susquehanna. The backbone of the locomotive fleet were the RS1s. They originally came painted with a combination of maroon and silver. You can see Uh, on the upper left-hand side, the 234, that it had been painted into the more austere solid paint scheme, but that paint itself had worn through, and some of the original maroon is showing there. In the getting into the Delaware Otsego era, you can see that the RS1 has been repainted to match the GP18 paint scheme. I believe this was the only RS1 that was repainted into that scheme. Despite not being in good financial condition, the Susquehanna did a magnificent job with their bicentennial locomotive. Uh, and also pay attention to the open auto rack cars. You can see a little bit to the left of the locomotive. Uh, it's I miss those things because you could see what kind of vehicles were being built and shipped. Susquehanna also had a number of S2 locomotives. Um, the only way I know the difference between an S2 and an S4 has to do with the trucks. And these are the blunt trucks, which indicate an S2. You can see a pretty filthy S2 on top, and on the bottom, I suspect that this one is not going to see any more service. It's absolutely amazing to me that the trio of Jeep 18s that they acquired in the early 1960s are still in service. This is the original paint scheme with the chevron stripes up front, seen at Little Ferry. Later, they became repainted with a little simplified paint scheme, but with some nice striping on the frame. Again, this provides a contrast between the older paint scheme and the newer paint scheme. I don't know whether it's aging or not, but it seems that the newer paint scheme, the yellow was a little bit lighter than the original. I may be wrong on that. If somebody uh, knows some more facts about that, feel free to share them in the question and answer portion of this presentation. Here we are at Butler with showing both the Jeep 18 and an RS1. Butler became the starting point for the passenger service in the latter years of their passenger service. Uh, well, let's go to Little Ferry, which is a great place to get shots of the Susquehanna. At least on weekends, it wasn't much of a problem walking around this place, although you had to watch your feet because you were uh, very likely to step in some oil, which was found everywhere on the ground. Here we see a couple of RS1s lined up. And again, a trio of RS1s here. If anybody knows what was in those barrels, feel free to share that. I'm not really certain myself. Now, for the life of me, the the piping that is on either side and on top of the 231 here certainly looks like the type of piping that you would have for a wash rack. Um, I don't think that based on the appearances of the locomotives we see here, that they received much washing. Now, in 67, wow, what a bright silver paint scheme on the back of this S2. And you can see that the had the circular symbol of the S on the cab door. And I even love the wooden ladder that goes to the roof of the roundhouse. Again, no ballast in sight anywhere. Couple more shots around the engine facility here. The 252 that would later become the Bicentennial. Um, and all the grass that somehow managed to grow out of the oil-stained uh, uh, semi-swampland. This shot shows what the back of the I'm sorry, the GP18 originally looked like. Again, it was sort of on the bottom half of a chevron uh, screen. They did have a functioning turntable, and you can see the very prominent marker lamps on this locomotive, and a night view. You can see some of the sand that was scattered on top of the oil-soaked ground here. And the 236 sticking its nose out of one of the stalls in the engine house. Well, this looks like a deadline if I ever saw one. The radiator is being propped up by the handrails on the 230, and you will notice um, on the second unit, if you're to blow it up, that the hood, the short hood of the 238, does not match the number on the cab, which is still in silver, and then there's no hood area whatsoever. And back an RS or an S2 in the background. During an excursion, they did put the bicentennial unit on the turntable, spun it around, and provided opportunities for some photography. Spirit of 1776. This tanker was at the engine terminal. Again, if somebody has information about uh, what it particularly contained, I'd be interested in learning that. And then at the time of the excursion, they lined up a Jeep 18 and an RS1. Both of them, uh, they were been washed and made to look very pretty for the occasion. Uh, get some shots here of the Susquehanna working around Little Ferry. which was obviously their largest yard at this point. And this time, a Jeep 18 has pulled north across the Overpet Creek into Ridgefield Park as it's doing switching. There was no real road into the Susquehanna facility or the engine terminal. If you wanted to go there, you would get on the two sets of planks that cross this bridge and then drive the rest of the way on roads to reach the yard and the facilities. An RS-1 with a short train of four boxcars and a shiny caboose in the yard. And at a later date, the bicentennial unit was working the yard. This shot gives you a little bit better look at the variety of automobiles that had been built that were on the auto racks on by 1978. That would have been, I believe, Penn Central by that time was operating that line. This shot is a particular favorite of mine. It shows the hump yard, or the hump that the Susquehanna operated. You can see the RS-1 is to the left of it, and the bicentennial unit is doing the shifting. And I absolutely love the bib overalls and the flannel shirt of the employee that is monitoring the humping operations. You can see the hump building to the right, and in this case, the 240 is got a cut of cars with it. Turning around and looking in the opposite direction, you can see the same uh, switching move. You can see the trucks have been nicely painted silver. Well, it's time to get out on the road and see where the Susquehanna went other than just in the little ferry yard. This is not my shot. It was labeled uh, Midland Park by the photographer that took it. I'm not entirely 100% convinced that it was in Midland Park. Again, if somebody has definitive information about the location, you feel free to share that. Here we are at Passaic Junction. The Erie is overhead here in Erie-Lackawanna in 1968. You can see the nice uh, uh, telltales warning employees who had been riding on top of the cars that there was an overhead uh, obstruction up ahead and they better duck down if they wanted to live for another day. A night view in Patterson, you can see there's nobody in the cab of the locomotives. So the crew is off somewhere, and we're in at the mainline station in Patterson. Susquehanna maintained a yard in Edgewater. This is also where the Sealand terminal is. And you can see the RS1 with a single car switching. With the employee is standing by the switch there to line it into the correct uh, track. This train, I believe, was a train that was heading to Lodi, uh, and it is crossing I believe it's the Passaic River. And I'm on the Pagoda side, and the other side would have been Hackensack. And here we are. We're back at Edgewater with a little bit longer cut. Again, the employees standing by the same location by the switch to route the cars into the correct place. 1981. Elmwood Park, which at the time I was living in Patterson was named East Patterson before they didn't want to be associated with the name of Patterson. They changed their name. There is a huge Markel factory there. My mother worked there for a while. And here we are with a Delaware Otsego era passenger train heading into Patterson. In 1980, I had a chase uh, of a Susquehanna freight here. It's July 9th, and based upon the dress of the two guys on the front pilot of the locomotive, it must have been a pretty warm day. We're here in Patterson at this point. Um, and they made a pickup from Conrail at this point uh, at Hawthorne. You can see that the Conrail New Jersey Transit tracks are in the foreground in the picture, and the interchange track in the back. The water tower, I can make out that it says Inmont. My father worked for a succession of companies that that owned that plant. When he started, it was called Interchem. They made printing ink dyes and a variety of other products. Um, I think it started out as Interchem. Then after Inmont, it was owned by Carrier and Sikorsky helicopters and a whole bunches of companies. But that area and the entire plant is completely gone these days. It's been all leveled. Progressing further west, we're in Wyckoff at this point. They can see that the cars that they picked up are now on the head end of the train, and now we have three guys riding the pilot and trying to cool off some. No caboose on the train at this point. And they had some work to do at Oakland. Uh, I would believe that there'd be these cars were carrying plastic pellets for various consignees. continuing on, we've made it to Pompton Lakes. Only one guy on the pilot at this point, and comes by the old station. And what strikes me is the gentleman leaning against the post in the foreground that's at least mildly suspicious of what a photographer is doing, taking a picture of this scene. You can see what the track looks like. Again, more weeds than ballast in sight. And here we are at Pompton Junction, to the west of there. Some switching to do here. Perhaps they were going to interchange with Conrail at this point. In this Dave Augsburger shot, we have a very nicely painted caboose bringing up train on a winter day in 1966. October 11th, 1981, Delaware Otsego, which was then operating but wasn't yet in ownership of the Susquehanna, ran an excursion which loaded at Saddle River. That distinctive octagonal building still is prominent in the town. And the first place that we went was uh, the little Ferry yard. And if you remember from a few minutes ago what the hump area looked like, uh, this looks much, much different, all the way from the painted building to the amount of gravel and the general cleanup of the place. From there, we headed west and we made it as far as Oakland. And there was a derailment at Oakland. That brought the trip to a grinding halt. Looking at the track near the front of the locomotive, it shouldn't have been terribly surprising. And so what they did was they sent two locomotives to rescue the train and get it underailed. And what a nice combination of locomotives to send. Well, they were successful in re-railing whatever had fallen off the tracks. You can see that they here were adjusting the train at the time, but we made it to crossing the river and had an opportunity to get a number of vantage points of this. This is, of course, the classic shot that is still taken by photographers today. And on we went. You're going to take a look at some of the equipment here, starting with the cabooses. And they're in the 011 series. Here is a very, very nicely painted Caboose in December of 1966. You can see that the windows up in the cupola have been blanked out, but all the rest of it just looks spick and span. Here's the 116. Uh, Also in the little ferry yard, again, they had those nice marker lamps. And the 117. all by itself in the yard. You can see the PSE&G power plant in the background. That was not served by the Susquehanna. And you can see some Pennsy hoppers. Well, as years go by, paint fades. And this is what it looked like 10 years later. A little bit worse for the wear. You can see on the 112 that all of the side windows have been uh, blanked over, and the paint has faded considerably. And on the 115, pretty much all the identification has been obliterated by time. Taking a look at some of the freight cars and non-revenue cars, found this in 1967, an outside braced boxcar. And yes, the reporting marks do say NYSW, number 1511. I would uh, love to know uh, when this car was actually built. Now, this is the standard Susquehanna boxcar that anybody who has a model railroad thinks of when they think of Susquehanna boxcars. Miss Susie Q with on the right, and I believe these cars had been rebuilt from the 1926 original construction. You can see it next to the shop buildings here. Whole string of them in the yard, and the amount of debris on the ground is very striking for me. But so these cars were all lined up in February of '67. Now, not all Susquehanna boxcars were Miss Susie Q boxcars. We do have one additional shot here among the grasses of a little ferry here. But here are some of the other styles of boxcars that the uh, Susquehanna had. You can see a yellow top, black bottom boxcar, a relatively plain boxcar, number 401. And if you look beyond it, there seems to be a solid green boxcar. It says Susquehanna on it as well. Now, if you're going to have a railroad like the Susquehanna with track work like the Susquehanna had in its last decades, you certainly are going to need to have a hook. And here was the Susquehanna's hook, complete with the accompanying car and American crane, which was fortunately not being called out that day, but it's uh, by some of the shop buildings in Little Ferry. Couple more Susquehanna cars. You can see this. The top one is Susquehanna car number 1000. Again, if someone has information about the specific contents of this car, it would be great to know. Um, and Susquehanna labeled uh, snowplow was in Maine. The 72 number would indicate that it was at least at one time a Maine Central car. This image is something that was published in a calendar that Dave Augsburger had. Rather snappy econoliner. Uh, uh, Obviously, it says signal department. So when we see a sign that says end of track, it means the show's over. I appreciate your watching and welcome any discussion, corrections, or comments that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. That was a wonderful presentation. A lot of great comments came in about it. One said the boxcars came from the Lehigh Valley. Um, but if anyone has any other questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A. Bill, if you want to moderate them.
Yeah, I'll get that. Okay. Uh, Lloyd Leone is asking who owns the Delaware Otsego system now? I'm not sure
I
that's on topic, but
I don't know.
So I actually can answer that. I believe 40% is owned by CSX, 40% owned by NS, and the rest of the 20% is the DO stockholders.
there was another note for you, Olav, that 252
Yes.
was also painted into the Yellow Jacket scheme.
So there were two.
So so there were two RS ones that made it to Yellow Jacket.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody have any ideas about what was in those barrels in Little Ferry?
Probably nothing
They
the
were
EPA would
probably
want to
all
hear about today.
I was going to say they were probably all empty and they emptied out on the ground.
What were they like grease or something or
No,
lube oil? Okay,
yeah.
it's a lot of lube oil.
Not getting any more questions. So, um, Richie, if you want to wrap it up.
Cool. Once again, thank you so much, Olive. We really appreciate you coming to do this for us on such short notice. So thank you once again. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I think we had about 90 people between Facebook and those who came in on Zoom. Once again, we are going on our summer break for July and August. So we sincerely hope that everyone has a wonderful summer, filled with lots of train spotting, of course. We will be back in September, the second Thursday. We'll be meeting at Reynes Auditorium for that one with a virtual option available. And with that, good night, everybody. And this presentation has been recorded and will be made available online in the next few days. And thank you, Bill, for all your work and helping put this together as well. With that, good night, everybody, and stay safe.